We're live.
Yay!
Hi, happy Monday night. It looks like we are live, and we are so excited tonight to welcome everyone to the Friends in Fiction official book club.
Yay!
Featuring Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. And as you can see, here are Christina and Lauren. And we'll give them the full introduction in a moment. I'm Brenda Gardner, your co-host, and I'm joined by lovely Lisa Harrison in Atlanta. Hey, Lisa.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited. Y'all know I'm excited.
Yes, Lisa has been waiting for this, so she is very excited. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, our special guests tonight are Christina Hobbs and Lauren Billings, who together write as Christina Lauren. So welcome, you two.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
We had one person on our book club said, post yesterday, am I the last person on earth to know that Christina Lauren is two people? And I'm like, no, I'm sure some people are going to find out tonight.
There's somebody every day. Every day
That's
there's
right.
a DM or some email or something that's like, I did not know you were two people.
Yeah. Surprise.
Oh.
That's what we always say, surprise.
Well, we are so grateful to have you tonight to spend some time with our wonderful book club. And so I want to introduce you, but let me first remind our members watching, put your questions for Christina and Lauren in the chat. As always, we'll keep it spoiler free until about 7:30. And along the way tonight, we'll have questions for book club members too. So keep tuned for that. So I'm honored to introduce Christina Lauren, which is the combined pen name of longtime writing partners and best friends, Christina Hobbs and Lauren Billings. The #1 international best-selling co-author duo writes both young adult and adult fiction, and together has produced 17 New York Times best-selling novels. I had to stop at that and go, 17? Oh my goodness.
It's crazy.
And they're published in over 30 languages with multiple starred reviews and award-winning publications. But let me separate that out a little bit because our book club members may not know a whole lot about each of you. So I'll take Lauren first. Lauren has a PhD in neuroscience, and before she made writing her full-time job, she would spend her days doing nerdy research things wearing a lab coat and goggles. She is mom to 2 children, wife to 1 mountain biking, home brewing scientist. That was a tongue twister, and an unabashed lover of YA and romance. I love this kind of bio. Christina Hobbs used to spend her days in a junior high counseling office surrounded by teenagers. These days, you can find her at her desk writing or watching BTS videos. She lives in Utah with her husband and daughter, thinks she's the luckiest person in the world to write books with her best friend, and is an unapologetic lover of boy bands and glitter.
Me too.
So we are excited to discuss the Soulmate Equation with you today. Thanks again for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we would love to have you give us a summary of the book for those who have not read it yet.
Sure. So I'm Lauren. Hello. The Soulmate Equation is the story of single mom Jess Davis, and her best friend Fizzy is a romance author. And they hear about this technology that was invented by this sort of grouchy guy that comes into their coffee shop every day. They find out that he founded a company that uses DNA for matchmaking. And being a romance author, Fizzy is like, Jess, we have to go do this. This is so fascinating. So she reluctantly goes along. Jess takes the DNA duo test, which is the genetic matchmaking. And lo and behold, she finds out that she has matched at an unprecedented level with the founder of the company. So I won't tell you too much more about that. All of that is on the jacket of the book. But essentially, Jess is really reluctant to date, and she does not like this guy, and she does not think they are soulmates. And so it's just sort of about how they navigate this whole situation, because it's a really public business and it's a really big deal. So they both get kind of famous, and it's fun.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I have to say, there were some really just laugh out loud moments in this book, and I just have to mention a couple of them before we even get started any further discussion. When Daniel and Fizzy ran into each other at their family reunion, thus ending their budding relationship. I thought that was hilarious. That's never a good sign, right?
Yeah. So Jess and Fizzy, there are the two females. Like, so the main character is Jess, but her best friend is Fizzy, and they work together every day at a coffee shop. And Daniel is the guy that works at the coffee shop. And yeah, so like Fizzy's a very active dater. She's very adventurous, and she started dating Daniel and then realized they were related.
I know, and we want to talk some more about Fizzy in a little while too, because she's a great character. And I have to say, the other spew my drink moment was when Jess's daughter, Juno, who's just fabulous, checked out a book for her mom at the library called Middle Aged and Kicking It, Women's Guide to Dating Over 40, 50, and Beyond.
I think that's an actual book.
I know. I think you Googled and you found an actual book. And it was like Jess had just turned 30 and she's like, hey.
Yep.
I need that
that's
book.
Hilarious. Well,
I need a copy of that book if it's real.
Well, I just had to get that out in the open before we even got started, because there were just so many funny moments in this book. And I just, hats off to you for creating something so funny and yet full of science and romance and everything else that's wrapped up in there. So one of the things that our book club members have asked in advance, several questions have come in, and they are very curious about how your writing partnership began. So Katie Crutchfield Weisland wants to know, how did you two meet?
So we met in 2009. Lo has a friend who does programming at San Diego Comic-Con, and we were both writing fan fiction. And she invited me to be on a panel. And so I went out there and we met for the first time and just liked each other and just got along. We were wearing Twilight Burger King crowns and the indoor key. And when we got back, we decided to write something. And like, being in fandom is super collaborative. Everybody is writing each other's stories and reading and editing and talking about them. And so we decided to write like a little one-shot fan fiction thing. And we had so much fun that we just decided, like, hey, do you want to write a book? Because that just seemed like the next logical step to us. And it's funny because we didn't know each other that well. And we just decided to do this crazy trusting thing and just like write a book together. Yeah. So we wrote a really we started writing a really kind of boring book because we thought we had to be serious, and it wasn't any fun. And then as soon as we decided to like write something we wanted to write, which was like a bunch of skinny dipping and stuff, we wrote that book and eventually got an agent and then eventually sold the book.
That
was over 10 years ago.
So cool. And 27 or 20, about to be 28 books in 10 years. That's like,
it's wild.
That's the mind-blowing thing. Like, I don't know how you guys do it.
I don't either.
But you do it well. So that's all that matters.
It's like every time we write a book, it's just like flail. Why do we do this? What are we doing? And then we're done and we're like, okay, that wasn't so bad. It's like every time.
Like childbirth.
It is.
Well, you guys, you brought up San Diego Comic-Con. So I kind of want to share a personal story. In 2019, I was at San Diego Comic-Con and I was there for press. And I was hoping, I didn't get to go. You guys had like a happy hour event or something. It was on a Wednesday night. I couldn't go because it was preview night, but I was like, I have to make it to their table. I have to make it. And I was rushing. One of my dear friends is the person who introduced me to Christina Lauren books. I was in a reading slump and she gave me Love and Other Words. I fell in love with it. And she was having a really tough time. So I wanted to get there and meet you guys. And I did. I came to your table and I told you the story about my friend Gina and how she was having a really tough time. And you guys were so welcoming. You were so sweet. You gave an advanced reader copies book of Twice in a Blue Moon for her. But I wanted to share this with you because she's the biggest Christina Lauren fan. And she has been a fan since The Office. And she met Christina at Tent City and freaked out. But the thing that it just really warmed my heart, the time that you took to sign books for me, sign books for her. And it just meant the world. And I'm trying to share my screen, but it's taking a minute. I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. So here we are in 2019.
Oh my God.
At Comic-Con. And after this moment, I was so overwhelmed in the moment that I made it there because I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to be at their panel. I'm going to miss them. And I made it. And then I went to your panel afterwards. It was a rom-com panel. And you guys at the end, you saw me in the audience, you signed your nameplate, and Christina came out to me in the audience and gave it to me to give to my friend Gina. And that just completely made her day. She was overwhelmed with the love, and the smile on her face shows how much it meant to her. So I wanted to share that with you. It was just awesome.
So
she was having the most, terrible, awful time. So this meant the world. And I just wanted to thank you guys because
oh my gosh, her smile.
Here we are
so
4 years later.
I love this.
I know.
Thank you for sharing that. Oh my gosh, that makes me feel so good. I miss seeing readers.
I know. I miss Comic-Con.
Yeah, me too.
I wanted to circle back on the fan fiction for some of our readers who might not know what it is. Can you tell them what fan fiction is and how you both started, or what inspired you both to start writing fan fiction?
Yeah, so fan fiction is just where you write about some other intellectual property stuff. You write stories. It can be about a movie franchise. It can be about a book series. It can be about TV. There's even real person fiction. Like there's people who write fan fiction about like One Direction or, BTS or whatever. But I've been writing fan fiction my whole life. I didn't know what it was when I was writing it when I was younger. I think I started when I was like 12 and I was watching Days of Our Lives soap opera and I just loved it so much. And I wanted to like write the scenes between like Patch and Kayla and Jack and Jennifer when we weren't with them on the screen anymore. And I would just write their stories of like, what did they have for dinner and like kissing goodnight and that kind of stuff. And then I think as I got older and I got into Buffy, I wanted to write stories about Buffy that we didn't get to see. And so I think that's sort of what fan fiction is it's just when you want to spend more time in a world and you also have the impulse to do it yourself. And so you write those stories. So Christina and I met when we were writing Twilight fan fiction, and people get into fan fiction for a million different reasons. Sometimes they just want to live in the world longer. Sometimes they want to fix something that happened in a book they didn't like how it went down. And the Twilight community is actually a really fertile ground for romance writing. I mean, there's a ton of authors that came out of there, like us, Alice Clayton, even E.L. James. Her Master of the Universe became 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, I remember.
Sally Thorne. I mean, there's like so many.
Cassandra
Helena
Clare?
Hunting.
Was Cassandra Clare?
She was Harry Potter.
Oh, Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yep.
Wow.
That's pretty neat because I didn't know a whole lot about fan fiction. So that's really interesting to know. And to know that you met in person, at that point, and the relationship started to develop. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask, Lisa, I'm sorry, did you have something?
Well, just as a quick follow-up, I think full circle, since you started writing fan fiction and now with your books being so popular and now people are writing fan fiction stories about your books, how did that feel to see other people write fan fiction about your stories? And do you read your fan fiction?
I don't think we knew that there was fic because we don't look for it.
There's Autobiography. I know that.
Yeah. Somebody had sent us a link to Autobiography and it was very sweet. It was like just one chapter. But I don't think we know about other fics, or we don't, I mean, I listen, like, I think we would both be thrilled if somebody was inspired by our book and wanted to write and even made a career out of it, you know?
Yep.
That would be, there's like no greater honor, I think, than inspiring somebody to become an author on their own.
Yeah. People will ask us, you know, are you going to write a sequel to Autobiography? And we'll be like, you should write fanfic. You should totally write it. I mean, it's amazing, and it's where I learned to write. So I would encourage anybody to.
Well, that does kind of segue into my next question. I'll address that to Christina, since you made that last comment. One of our readers wants to know, Kathy Jackson Moore wants to know, how did your writing relationship develop along with your friendship? Like, how did you learn to collaborate together?
Well, it's funny because we didn't really know each other when we started writing. And so our friendship grew right along with our co-authorship. So we've never had really one without the other, which is a good thing because we put just as much time into our friendship as we do our business relationship. They're equally as important to us. So I mean, it's funny. We just like the same way everyone does. If we like had a fight or something early on, we just had to deal with it the same way as we were like still getting to know each other. And like Lo is like my favorite person in the world. Her kids are like my kids, and I can't even imagine us like not being friends. So God, we were so lucky. Like it was just serendipity that like this worked out for us. And we're very different, and that's why I think it works so well. It takes really specific personalities. We've had friends who have tried to write together and it just does not work. So it just takes a really specific set of personalities, and we were really lucky.
Did either of you try to write with anyone else beforehand?
I wrote fic with somebody beforehand, but it was just like one thing, and I can't imagine doing it with anybody else.
Oh, that's just amazing. Just kind of a little aside, Lisa and I did not know each other before we began co-hosting Friends in Fiction Book Club together.
Oh, wow.
Very close friends.
Yep.
Talk every day,
Wild.
every day.
We met
So-
online through the pandemic. Our love of reading brought us together,
I love that.
and here we are.
So
It's
minus
funny
the
'cause-
writing part.
Yes.
Yeah.
But people will always say, like, you know, we've heard people all the time say, oh, you know, internet friends aren't real friends. And we're like, yes, they are.
Oh.
I mean, people meet their, you know, husbands and wives on, you know, internet dating. Like that's exactly what we're all sort of doing in a way.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's so true.
Absolutely. And probably if there were not internet dating, there wouldn't be a story like this to start out with, you
That's
know?
exactly right. We need that. We needed Tinder so that DNA duo could exist.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And I know Lisa is going to talk.
I would
talk
sign up
about-
for DNA Duo in a heartbeat. I'm so over Tinder and Hinge.
Oh gosh.
You're like,
I mean,
just
I
tell
would
me
if
who's
I was
perfect for
single.
me. Just set me up with that person.
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. Well, here's a question for our book club members to kick off the discussion about DNA Duo in the book is, if that technology were available, I guess, and assuming you were single out there, would you use it? Let's hear what they have to say.
Okay.
I had to be very
I'll
thoughtful
look out
about
for
that
it.
answer.
I
And
will.
my apologies, my screen is freezing, but I think it's okay on the stream. So
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah.
okay. So Lisa, tell us about your thoughts on the DNA Duo.
I would sign up in a heartbeat. I'd be first in line. Dating is tough. Being single is tough in a pandemic, and everything's online. It's just, it's a headache. I feel like I could write a book about Tinder fails.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's just,
You know, I think that would get a lot of people to read it, because not only is it relatable, but sometimes the stories are really funny in hindsight, you know, and so like making
Yeah.
writing about them and turning it into like humor versus just frustration, I think.
yeah. You heard
Yeah.
it.
when we were
first,
doing
folks.
when we were writing My Favorite Half Night Stand, we like asked our readers if they wanted to give us some of their like worst like dating app stories. And some of them were just horrifying. Like
Yeah.
somebody was like matched with their brother or something.
Oh
And
my gosh.
Yeah.
That is pretty bad.
Oh, no.
I know. It's like that's when you know the dating pool is just shrinking way too small. It's like here's
or
your
you're being a
family
little
member.
too specific or something.
Yeah.
That's when you just give up. You're like, I'm done.
Yes.
I'm good. Well, we have a lot of responses in the chat. Linda says absolutely. Yes, I sure would. I'd use it. And Maria says even married people would do it. I would.
I think a lot of people would want to know, like, is this person that I'm like, just out of curiosity, like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to leave you because I love you, but I want to know like what our score is.
Yep.
But you know, so when we were drafting Soulmate Equation, actually we had finished drafting and it was in like the editorial phase, and we heard about the book, The One, that was being made into a TV show, and it's basically the like sci-fi version of this, right? But that premise is that every person has like one soulmate. So the thing about in our book, it's like you get a score, and so maybe you're a base match, but that person actually is your soulmate. But this is a score based on like compatibility measurements and all different kinds of things. But in the book, The One, it is like every person has one soulmate. And so
it's like a gene. It's like
yeah,
this
it's
gene
like
matches
one
this gene.
Yeah.
And it's a thriller.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh.
And so basically there are people who are married who end up like leaving their spouse to be with their soulmate, their one. And so, you know, we saw this happening and it was like, that's not how we would want this at all. Like in our book, we're romance writers. We want everyone to end up happy and be okay.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, if in our world, if people use this app, it would be to, you know, just out of curiosity to see like where you land on the compatibility scale. So
I
Well,
wouldn't if I
like-
was I'm married. I wouldn't do it because I've been married 27 years. It's fine.
You're like, we got
I don't
it.
need to know if we're not.
yeah, too much invested.
Yeah.
Well, I do like the idea in the book, and we'll have a spoiler in a few minutes, but I do like in the book that there's a score. It's not an absolute like you match or you don't match. There's a score, and people clearly
Yeah.
in your book can be happy with, you know, a lower score, a silver or a gold.
mhm.
And it's kind of neat to think of it that way.
Well, and in the book, you know, one of the points that, because Jess, so our main character, Jess, is a statistician and River is a geneticist. And so it's kind of cool that she understands the science and the numbers behind this thing that he's made, because what she says at some point is like, statistically speaking, you're more likely to have your soulmate be one of these base matches than you are to ever get a diamond match, because a diamond match is so rare and it requires so many things to align that's just statistically incredibly unlikely. And so I think that as authors, that was our sort of like loosening the belt a little bit, because we wanted it to feel like it was, you know, even if you end up with somebody who you have a score of 25, but it feels right, then it is right. You know, that the score is just one part of this and that there's other aspects that can't be measured. And yeah. And I think that's true, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's just some things
Absolutely.
you can't quantify. So
Absolutely. And speaking of, you know, River being a geneticist and Jess being a statistician, there's a lot of sort of statistics and science in the book. Could you talk to us about how that developed, and did you have any difficulty with getting that all together in the book?
Research.
I think a lot of it for us was like, when we first started outlining it, it was, imagine we're investing in a company. And as an investor, what would I need to see in the investor packet to believe that this is something that says it's doing what it you know, that does what it says it can do? And so it was sort of like working backwards from that. Like, what would I need to see data on? I would need to see genetic data, obviously, but I would also need to see like long-term evaluation of happy marriages and like what qualities do those marriages have, and what do happily married couples, what are their scores? And I would need to see like attraction measurements of people who've just met, right? And what are their scores? So I think like thinking about when you first meet someone and you're really intense about them, to you've been married for 50 years and you're still deeply in love, like what are some of the overlapping genetic signatures for that? And so it was fun to write about. It was fun to imagine a way that you could quantify those kinds of connections. And then there was way too much math and science in it in the first draft, so we had to like pare a lot of it down. But I think just like writing that and creating this fictional thing, you know, it made us sort of wish that something like this really existed, because it's kind of cool. You know, it would be really neat to see that in real life.
Because there are companies that are doing like not this, but you know, with pheromones or all sorts of stuff. None of them have really like taken off. But I mean, you never know. The thing that, so I don't know anything about science. And so that's why I was good to be like, I don't know what this is, and we'd have to explain it. But you would need so many years of data that's why it was great in a book, because you can just be like, we've been doing it for 15 years,
Yeah.
or, you know, so you never know what will happen. I mean, somebody could be out there doing it right now.
I mean, the thing is, a lot of places, the like 3 places that have tried this, they've tried it with like different kind of immune factors or pheromones, like she said, but usually they're looking at just a couple of genes. And it's really hard to draw too much conclusion for that, because the genome is like 20 to 25,000 genes. And so it's like giving somebody a questionnaire with 20,000 questions and saying, okay, if you guys have the same answer for 3 of them, you're a match. But that's like, you know, you need something more robust than that. And I think that's why it's so hard, right?
Yeah, you'd be better off drawing names out of a
Exactly.
hat.
100%. Yes.
Having your
Shooting
friends
darts
set
at a
you up.
dartboard with names on it, like Brad, Steve.
Brad. Oh my goodness. I have a question. One of our readers would like to know if you would consider writing a sequel to the Soulmate Equation or a spinoff about Fizzy.
So we did not plan on writing a Fizzy book at all. We are writing standalones, but every single event we did, people were like, are you going to write Fizzy's book? Are you going to write Fizzy's book? Are you going to write Fizzy's book? So we're actually writing Fizzy's book right now. And it was not the plan, or we would have left ourselves a few more Easter eggs maybe.
To go by.
And at first we had said, you know, it's really easy. Fizzy is funny. That's her kind of only job, is to be the funny, supportive friend. And that's like easy to write. It's a lot harder to give her own story and her vulnerabilities and the things that are wrong with her life. And then finding out who her sort of equal is and who deserves her. And so that's what we're doing now. And she's so delightful. Just like, she's so much fun. I cannot wait for like readers to get more of her.
I love
She
her because
is.
she would say whatever she says, what everyone else is thinking, or what
Yeah.
thinking. And I've always admired people who can speak their mind and not care what others think.
Yeah.
I loved Fizzy. I'm like, everybody needs a friend like that. And there were some things about her that reminded me of myself a little bit.
That's great. I mean, I think I love when readers see themselves in our characters, especially Fizzy, because she is what you're saying. She's so genuine, you know? And I think, you know, it's tricky in part to write her because she is a romance author. And so it's like easy to be a little meta when we're writing about her. Like we have these inside jokes and we're like, okay, is this something people would get? But also Fizzy dates a lot. And there's already the stereotype of romance authors being like hypersexual or really flirty or always thinking about romance. And so it's sort of like we have to kind of back off a little from that to make sure that she doesn't feel like a caricature.
Right.
But she's been really fun. Yeah.
Well, and she did show some vulnerability in the book, and I think
Yeah.
that's, that's a lot to build on. And I kind of backed into the story by asking about Fizzy first, so I apologize for that. But I love your description of her, because y'all describe her as being made of charisma, witchcraft, and bad judgment. Which is just a riot, but she's so much more than that. And I think you did, I mean, who am I to say, but you did leave so much to know about her and what happens in her future, and her vulnerability. So I'm excited to hear that news.
I know.
Yeah, I mean,
You heard it
we're
here
in the
first.
spoiler portion of the evening, and I think like,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and
Alert.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
Spoiler alert.
spoiler alerts. I mean, you know, Fizzy does get into a relationship in the book, and it does go bad. And so I think it's good that we have this, we are able to see, and this again was totally unplanned for the Fizzy book because we didn't know we were writing it, but we are able to see her in this low moment where she's dealing with, you know, this betrayal. And so that has been a really good launching point for us, and starting like what we're writing is like, she had gone through this, it's in the future now, it's, you know, a couple of years later, but like that's going to linger with her for a while, and she's going to have to navigate that. So yeah, it's been fun to write her.
That is awesome. Since we've done our spoiler alert, Lisa, I'll ask in a moment if there are any more questions from the chat, but I kind of wanted to delve into Jess a little bit and her relationship with River, because we haven't, like I said, I backed into it a little bit. You know, they start out, you know, as you said, Jess doesn't think a whole lot of River at first. And I love that she calls him Americano, because that's just a hoot. But but they go from this sort of like, don't know each other, don't particularly care for each other, to kind of feeling each other out, and then becoming partners. But they both are carrying a lot of, I don't want to say baggage, but they're carrying their backgrounds, you know, River as, you know, being detached and a workaholic, and Jess as someone who's not been able to trust the people in her lives. Did you have trouble figuring out how to get them together? And I'm kind of copping out by not calling on a particular person.
Oh, it's okay.
No, I mean, we're lucky because the plot sort of like gives us the device to get them together. Do you know what I mean? That like I remember when we were outlining the book, it's always exciting when there's one moment where you cannot wait to get to. And in this book, it was the moment where they're sitting in the thing and they're reading the scores, and she's like, who is, you know, client 0001 or whatever it is, and it's River. Like that was the moment like we could not wait for. And so we were sort of lucky in that way, that the story like lent itself to like, here's how they're going to have to get together. And also fake dating is like such crack. So the fact that they have to like pretend to do this, but then there's also the other thing that like every decision Jess makes involves Juno and how it's going to affect Juno. And so how is she going to do this thing that she really needs to do and not have it impact her daughter at all? And so in this book, it was kind of nice because some of the like stakes were sort of built in, and that always makes for the best books when they don't have to be kind of created or manufactured in any way.
Well, it is really an important piece of Jess's story that she is concerned about her daughter and tries to keep her separate. And I'm wondering, do you think this is a pretty realistic scenario in terms of the, you know, the trials of, you know, single women who are working and raising children? Does she achieve the balance that you wanted her to have?
Oh, yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think, you know, the truth is there are a million different ways. There's an infinite number of ways to achieve balance. And the only one reason why we as mothers are so hard on ourselves is we think there is one way, right?
That's so true.
And so I think, you know, but for Jess, you know, figuring out that like being that balance didn't mean sacrifice everything. was a good lesson that like she's a better mom when she's happy as a woman, independent of being a mom, right?
And she
So,
really had to be talked into that by
mhm.
really more than one person. She was
Mhm.
she was fortunate to be surrounded by people who cared for her and tried to keep telling her that message.
Well, which is
Mhm.
so funny if you think about it. I mean, we wrote this very involved community for her. She has her grandparents who are living in the same property. She has this best friend who loves her kid. And still, she kind of can't loosen that grip, right? And it's just like, think about all the people in the world who do not have that much support, right? And
Yeah.
so I think, I'm sure there are women out there who read that. I did, wishing that they had that kind of support when their kids were little, right? But it's hard no matter how much you have. You have no support, you have a ton of support, it's hard.
Mhm.
So yeah, I
I
think
just
she ended
love
up.
that. I love that Jess was, you know, the main character in the story, but she was a single mom. Like that's kind of a different lead character. We haven't seen many single moms. We watched her go through her struggles with her business and struggles in life and being a mom and trying to get all that balance. And it's so relatable. I loved watching her story throughout the book. Um, I just loved her character. But I also, another thing that I'd love to mention is the relationships in this book. They were so strong. And what really took me by surprise was my favorite relationship in the story was River and Juno. Their bond
Mhm.
was so surprising. So I wanted to ask, did that surprise you guys? Did it kind of happen as you were writing, or was it planned to always have them have that bond?
We did sort of the River Nicholas and the Juno Miriam thing was something that we had planned early on. That was another moment that we couldn't wait for, because we just had to have this moment where like I mean, it's like the total swoon moment when he is like talking to her and they connect and they have this thing in common. So that was one of them that we were really, really excited about. This book was just like, I remember outlining this book in Lowe's kitchen, and you just feel like sometimes outlining a book is just like everything is clicking and sometimes it's not. And this was one of those things where we were so in love with the idea and who they were. And I think like especially who Jess was came like pretty early. As soon as we like added Juno to the mix, she just like fell into it. And then we were like, she's missing one thing. And that's when we came up with the story with her mom and stuff. And she was just like so like she's one of my favorite female characters. She just has like so much stuff going on in her life and she thinks she needs to be perfect at all of it. And like none of us do. None of us do.
Although I can totally relate to the whole science fair extravaganza. That was a great moment for me
Yeah.
when River gets so involved. That was the swoon moment for me when he is totally engrossed in helping her make that
Oh my
science fair
God. Nothing is
project.
sexier than a dad that will take that job off your plate.
Absolutely. I'm like, okay, sold.
I know. So there is an epilogue in the paperback. The hardcover came out in May, but the paperback came out just last February. And there's a special edition epilogue that has now been added to the ebook. So anyone who bought the ebook, you should just reload the book and it'll have that epilogue. And there's a lot of River and Juno swoons in that. And I think the ebook right now, right, Christina, is $1.99, $2.99.
Yeah, I think for the
Yeah.
It's on
rest of
like
this
big
month.
sale. So
Yeah, it's on sale.
Our books
Yeah.
are never on sale for that long, and I think it's been most of March.
yeah. So
Yeah. And that's a great bonus too, to have that River point of view in the
mhm.
epilogue. So that'll be definitely something to read for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you loved the moment when River says, I have to make it right with both my girls,
Yeah.
if like you love that moment, then the epilogue is 1000% for you.
Oh, I can't wait.
Okay, let me go ahead and do that right now.
There's also a bunch of fizzy in there. So
Mhm.
Oh, I love that. Yes, that's a good tidbit. I have a couple of questions from the chat. Maria would like to know, why did River ghost Jess for a week? That was not nice, but she loved the way they made up.
I mean, River, he's an intense guy, and he, this is his life's work. And he basically thought that he had not only destroyed the company by, like working with, these people who did something wrong or not knowing if they had fudged more data. But he also, I think, worried a lot about having ruined Jess's life and maybe making her feel like she had to be with him, even if she didn't belong with him. Right. So I think, to his own point, he didn't think that much time had passed. And we wrote him, but I believe him.
He was believable.
Yeah. But I also think he just he couldn't face her until he knew it was okay. Right. Because he was embarrassed, he was ashamed, he was terrified, panicking, and he just almost couldn't open his thoughts to facing her, and whether it was good news, bad news, until he knew it was okay. So.
Well, and the company was potentially crumbling with this revelation, and so he definitely had a lot on his mind. I'm gonna stick up for River.
I know. I mean,
even though it was me.
I wouldn't have understood that. I don't think, but Lo and her husband are both scientists, and so seeing how tunnel vision her husband can get, just because he's just every thought is about his work, in a moment. I just completely got it.
Mm-hmm. Or in a lot of moments.
That was interesting. So Christina, by yourself, you wouldn't have thought that was not
that I wouldn't have I think I do not have a scientific brain. I do not have a brain that is this is my life's work, and so to see that and how wrapped up in solving a problem, scientists get, it made me understand River so much more.
Oh, that is really interesting. Because after all, she was a statistician too, and that's part of their, coolness. Mm-hmm. Well, Lisa, did you have another question from the chat before I get to my drop?
We have a couple. A couple of people have mentioned they'd like to know if the Soulmate Equation or any other Christina Lauren books might be made into films. And then specifically, who would play Fizzy if you casted a film? We have a lot of Fizzy fans, and we also have some Grandpa fans too. They are really big fans of Grandpa in the chat.
I will let Christina answer the update about film stuff, but I will say she and I are both really, truly the worst at casting our own books. It's always so much more fun for us to hear who people imagine, because the thing is, once we write it and it's in your hands, then it becomes your book, right? So it's your imagination, your characters. And even if we could come up with somebody that we think would be a good Fizzy, it might not be who you imagine. And we don't want that cognitive dissonance, whoever Fizzy is for you is who Fizzy is for you. Mm-hmm. And so until these things get made into movies and then you're oh man, I didn't see that person at all, then, we'll just let you live in that world. So.
As a reader, that's hard for me because I have my mind in my mind who that person is, and invariably it's not who is on the screen.
Yeah, but I've been surprised. I mean, for the example, the Hating Game movie, the guy they cast as Josh, at first I was I don't know, he doesn't look the way I imagine Josh. But he was so good. And I thought that he was really fun. So I think, I'm the same way where I get sort of set in how I imagine things as a reader. But then, if you see them, you kind of have to trust the process that they'll do right by the characters, Yep.
Yeah. Well, book club members, let us know who you would cast. And of course, we have one. For no shock here, our moderator, Joe Dennis, says Chad Michael Murray for River, but he says him for everything. So that's no surprise.
I think that's a little bias on Joe Dennis' part. I love it. Well, I do want to ask one. Oh, did I interrupt?
I was just going to say about the movie thing that Honeymooners has been optioned. And they asked us some questions about casting and stuff. And our biggest feedback for those characters is that Ethan has to be hot. He has to be very hot. And that something that's really important to our readers is that Olive is not a tiny woman. You know, she's Mexican American, and she is a curvy gal, and so you know that has to be taken into account. And it's very funny because Olive and Amy are twins, but that was not a thing that like we considered when it was optioned until they came back to us and they were talking about the same person playing both, and we were like,
Oh,
no,
right.
they don't have to be the same person. Like they just have to look similar, you know.
I mean, they kind of do though. They're identical twins.
I don't know. I mean, it's a movie. It's a movie. I mean, they do have to look very similar, you know. But so that was our biggest thing. She just like cannot be this little tiny, you know, as much influence as we can have. We would like her to be a curvy gal. And then Roomies has been optioned by Village Roadshow. Bought by Village Roadshow, and Lo and I wrote the script for that. And some exciting stuff has happened recently, but we can't talk about it. Which is always the way it is.
Those are the two we can talk about.
Busy would talk about it.
She would.
She totally would. She absolutely
that
would.
woman cannot keep a secret to save her life.
She'd get the scoop.
Well, that's really good to know. I'm glad someone asked that question. So this one is a personal question of mine, and it's about Jess and River and those blasted scores. Because we know that this all started because they were like a diamond match at 98. And then we are in spoiler time. So that turns out to be kind of a plot twist and convoluted. And by the end of the story, River has the real test results for his compatibility, but she doesn't want to look at them. So what is their score?
So it's funny because we had that she like figured it out and asked him, and then our editor was like, guys, I just think this is really obvious and it's kind of overkill. Like, you don't need to say what this score is at the end because everybody knows that it's a 99. And we're like, okay. So we like cut it. And then like literally the most common DM we get anymore is like, what's their real score? And we're like, see, we needed to have that in there. So
well, you know,
it's 99.
I get that because it is that they do explain it, because obviously he doesn't have to, his company is not ruined because he doesn't have to disclose it. So it's clear that, but still, I like to know.
I know.
Yeah.
I get it. And I think
I
we
need
put
that
in
confirmation.
I think we put it in the River point of view epilogue. I think he thinks like, since they got their new diamond score or they got their new 99 or something like that, that I think we put that in there.
Oh, yay. That's another perk for the epilogue.
Yes.
That's so funny. Lisa,
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
One of our readers would like to know, and I have this book sitting right here. They'd like to know the age range for Autobiography, and also if you guys will be writing any more YA novels. And this is the cover for those who haven't seen it. I love this cover. I love this book.
I love it. So Autobiography is considered YA. So that would be, you know, like, I don't know what that is even considered, 18 and below or something.
I think they say 13 to 17.
Yeah.
13 to 17.
And it's funny because Lo and I, when the first book we ever wrote was a young adult book. That's what we loved. That's what we were reading at the time. And so we thought that's what we were going to do, was be YA authors. And then we had an offer from somebody who only wrote YA. And then when you who only repped YA. And then when you let everybody know that you had an offer, you know, the people who have it hopefully come back to you and say, let me read. And that happened. And our agent, Holly Root, offered. And she was like our dream agent, but she does everything. And so we always are like, what would have happened if we would have signed with that agent that only did YA? Because our career went in a completely different direction. So we would write YA if the right idea came to us. We love YA. And Autobiography, we always say that's like the book of our heart. It was just a story we like had to write. So if we had the right idea, absolutely.
Yeah, the thing about the market is just a lot smaller because
Mhm.
kids don't have disposable income. And so, YA readers tend to read like the big books that come out, and then they'll check stuff out at libraries, but um, it's not as big a market as romances. And so for us, like it has to be a real, like the idea of our heart. It has to be a story that we just can't not write in YA. And so we have a couple ideas, but we'll see. We'll see if they come forward.
Well, which leads us into this, because I know our time is almost up, but
Ooh, it's
we want to
flying
give,
by.
I know it flew by, absolutely. But we wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about some things you're working on and to tell people where to find you on social media.
So we are working on Fizzy's book right now.
Mhm.
And the book that comes out in May is called Something Wilder. And that is our sort of like romancing the stone, kind of like romantic adventure book. And it was the most fun we've ever had drafting anything. It takes place, it's about Lily, and her dad was this kind of famous treasure hunter. And she's sort of resentful of that. And she now lives in the kind of like Red Rock area of Utah and takes people out on like old fashioned fake treasure hunts. And she is totally over it. And right when she's figuring that she's sort of done doing it, she has one group show up, and the love of her life, who she hasn't talked to in 10 years, who kind of left her, is in this group. And then just it goes from there. So that comes out in May.
I can't wait.
It's
No.
really fun. It's very CeeLo, but also like if Christina Lauren did Indiana Jones. Like
I love it. Like mystery, romance, all
Mhm.
adventure. That sounds so good.
I love it. CeeLo does Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
Now,
have to post that one.
if our readers want to get a signed book or book plate, where would they go to get it?
So right now, we have a pre-order campaign going for Something Wilder, where if you order the book through Mysterious Galaxy, which is an independent bookstore in San Diego, you can order any of our books and we'll get them signed and personalized. And you also will get this exclusive artwork that we haven't revealed yet, but trust us, you really, 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 really want this artwork.
It's so pretty. We saved it's the lock screen on our phones.
Yeah, we like
Oh my
got
goodness.
the colored version last night and we both just like completely lost our minds. It's so fun and romantic and beautiful. It's awesome. So Mysterious Galaxy, you can find the link through their website, or you can on our link tree on Instagram, which is at Christina Lauren. You can go and find, and it'll direct you right there if you just go to our link tree.
And we'll post it on our book club page.
And also, I
Thank
think
you.
the landing page for the publisher's making us a landing page for Something Wilder, right? So
Yeah,
is it?
I don't think it's up yet.
Yeah, it should be
we're
up.
going on tour. They're gonna add all that. It'll all be in one place.
Yeah, but if they want a signed copy, Mysterious Galaxy will have that. It should be up now.
Will the tour mainly be West Coast, or are you going all over?
We have not announced the cities yet, but I can tell you it is not West Coast. There is a stop in LA, but for the most part, it is East, Midwest, South.
South?
Mhm.
Where in the South?
I think the closest we're coming to you is probably Alabama.
Oh,
Ooh, that's close.
it depends on where.
I'm there.
And just real quickly, tell us about, I saw a little snippet about a conference with the LA Times and the Bodice Rippers.
Ripped Bodice, yes.
Ripped Bodice, thank you. Obviously, I'm
Yeah,
well attuned to this.
The LA Times Book Festival, and Jasmine Guillory is also participant. She was our book club last month.
Oh,
So
awesome.
we were like two of our favorites.
Which one did you guys do of hers?
We did the wedding.
Okay. Yeah, that's
first.
a fun one. Yeah, so it's the LA Times Festival of Books. So we'll be on a panel there, and then there'll be a signing through the Ripped Bodice. So I don't know if they're shipping books out, but maybe.
You can order them from the Ripped Bodice if you can't attend the festival. You
Okay.
can get them from the
Okay.
Ripped Bodice.
Those actually might come sooner than Mysterious Galaxy, but Mysterious Galaxy will have something wilder. So
Okay, so
And
if
will
any of
that
our
be
book club members-
Will that be virtual or is it only in person for the LA Times?
I don't know if they're broadcasting it. That's
Okay.
a
I
good
don't know.
question. We can find out.
But if anybody's in that area, that's a great opportunity to have an in-person event. So many
Come
people.
see
are just-
us.
Yeah.
And we went to
Yeah.
Tucson last
Excited.
weekend, and it was just, we have missed like readers and book festivals so much. We cannot wait.
So fun.
Oh,
Yes.
well, we are so excited to have you tonight. I know you have to go, and we'll do announcements in the after show since y'all have to get going. But thanks so much. It's been such a pleasure to talk about the Soulmate Equation and figure out all of the answers
Awesome.
to the questions we had.
Well, thank you so much for reading it and letting us come and talk about it. We really love this book. So I'm so glad you guys chose it for your book club. It's very
Yeah,
cool.
thank you.
So fun.
Thanks
We're so
so
glad
much.
that you guys joined us. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Anytime.
good to
Everybody
see you.
watching.
Tell Gina we say hi.
Oh yes, I will. She'll be thrilled that you said her name. Yes, I will definitely tell her for sure. I think she's at Disney and she's like, I'm watching it as soon as I get home. So
Oh, that's
she'll be
awesome.
watching it tonight.
I love it.
Yeah.
Y'all take care. Thanks so
You
much.
too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Good night. Oh,
Oh, that was so much fun.
yes, that was so much fun. It went by way too fast.
I know it always does, but this one especially seemed to go fast, and I have to laugh. I have to laugh at the end because I was like the bodice rippers.
I was like, bodice ripper. It's like, ooh.
Thankfully, at least they figured it out. I was like, I
I
know
was like,
it's
the ripped bodice. Okay.
It
Bodice
would've been
ripper
easier.
sounds like a touring troupe of Chippendale dancers.
I know. I'm like, oh, I should have just read.
Oh my
from the-
gosh, it's so funny.
Well,
So,
just put that on the blooper reel.
I didn't even get to show them my Christina Lauren books I have. Well, I'll show you guys. So I already
Show them
showed
some.
Autobiography, which is the YA novel. This one is so funny. Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. This one's
Oh, I like that
popular
cover
as well.
too.
Yeah, they always have great covers. And then, of course, The Unhoneymooners is it's so
Oh, that's my
popular.
favorite.
The Unhoneymooners recently had a surge in popularity. It was so funny. Like, it came out, I want to say in 2019, and it did well and everything. And then there was this TikTok video that someone made about The Unhoneymooners. And then all of a sudden it kind of blew up again. In 2 years after it came out, it ended up on the New York Times bestseller list again.
Really? I didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
And it was like, oh, so that's kind of cool. I'm sure they loved
Oh.
that. That was
Oh,
fun.
that's funny. Well, I
Yeah.
tell you, I'm trying to see if I can find it. One of the things that we didn't get to talk about in the actual session is the apartment complex that Jess and Juno live in. And I wanted to share this with the group. That apartment complex is based on a real
Oh,
apartment
yeah.
complex. And this is what it looks like. And it's actually sandwiched in between a Thai food restaurant and an auto mechanic shop. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Gives
that's
us a good-
awesome.
Better picture.
Really cool.
And I'm trying to think, it is her aunt and uncle. But anyway, back to you, Lisa. I'm doing so well tonight. Let me stop sharing now.
Well, at least you didn't. Oh my gosh. When I was trying to tell the story, my screen share button wasn't working. So I was trying to like tell the story and hit the screen share. And I felt like I was just like, it seemed like it was forever. I'm like, this is not going well.
I know there's
I
always
feel
that
like I
moment
sounded awful. I hope,
there's
I
that
don't know.
moment
I don't even know what I
always.
said.
There's that moment always when technology does or doesn't work, and we're doing those things at the same time, but of course no one knows that's what you're doing.
I
You're
know
just
I
kind
was
of
like
sitting
doing
there.
that and I'm trying to, I didn't, I one thing I didn't say to them, I was so overwhelmed because my friend, she was really going through a terrible time, and just knowing that when I got there and I made it right before they left, it was like just knowing that this was going to make her smile. I was like overwhelmed with emotion, and I totally cried. Like when I meet people all the time and I'm not like the crier, starstruck type. But when I met them, I cried and I felt so stupid. I was like, oh my gosh, my friend, and I made it. I can't believe it. And they were so sweet. And they were just awesome. They were so sweet.
Oh,
And they were just as awesome tonight, 4 years later. So
I know, no
what can you
kidding.
say?
And how
Yeah.
funny that you were able to put your hands on that photo and
I
still have the one from
know.
your friend. That was amazing.
I still
Well,
have
we
my
had
text message from that day when I sent her the text message saying that I did meet them, and she was like, "Oh my gosh." Yeah.
see now, I don't know if it's more impressive that you found that text message or that you were able
Oh Lordy.
that you were able to find them. I'm just kidding. We did have someone in the chat ask us what our next book is going to be. So I do want to cover
Yes,
that
let's do
before we
our
go.
announcements. And if you're still hanging out with us, if you tell us what your favorite Christina Lauren book is, they might check out the comments later and let us know.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, tune in again for our next book club discussion on April 21st when we discuss Christy Woodson Harvey's first historical fiction novel, The Wedding Veil. And I just finished it last weekend and I'm so excited.
How many people think I've read it? Anyone?
Oh, no.
No. Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but I am going to read it. I just, it's too early.
I shouldn't say that without any explanation, but Lisa and I, just as Christina and Lauren are have different approaches to our reading.
Yes, that's true. Very, very
I'll just
true.
let it go at that.
I'm last minute Lisa. I was literally reading the Soulmate Equation while they were, no, I'm just kidding. It wasn't that bad.
Not that bad.
Not that bad. But I like to have it fresh in my mind. And lately my mind is not that great. So I need to be able to know what I'm talking about. If I read 2 books after it, I might not remember. So that's how I approach it. Brenda is very prepared. As you can tell during our broadcasts, I'm like,
Except
Brenda's
for the
like, Brenda's very, very good. We make a good team.
we just don't do so well with the what was it, ripped bodice.
Oh Lord. The bodice rippers. Woo!
Ah. And I really didn't figure out it's the LA Times Festival of Books, but there's a segment apparently that's sponsored by the Ripped Bodice, so I didn't totally make it up.
Yeah, no, the Ripped Bodice is the indie bookstore that I think, sponsors it.
Yeah.
That's a popular indie. If I make it out to LA, then I would totally check that one out. Okay, let's see what we've got in the chat here. Okay. We still have quite a few people hanging out with us.
Oh, wonderful.
We love that. Tammy, I wish I knew where they were going in Alabama, but as soon as I know, I will post it on the page. Let's see what else. Kathy's excited for The Wedding Veil. Anissa loved The Wedding Veil. She said Christy wrote a great historical contemporary.
Oh, she sure did.
Yeah,
I
I can't
hated
wait.
for it to end.
See, Maria's like me. I'm the same way, Lisa. I just finished listening to it 5 minutes before showtime. Yes,
Well,
Maria,
you know, and
you
not
are
that
my
one's better
soul
than the
sister.
not that one's better than the other, because like Diane said, yes, you if you read it too early, you do have to skim it back over, which you do have to do. I
True.
just have a lot of anxiety, so I'm like not the
So
not the last.
Marlene said she's read. Oh wait, no. Marlene says, "Of course we are still here for a PB and J." Oh, we love you, Miss
Oh,
M. And Maria said she read this in the On Honeymooners. Anissa said the On Honeymooners is hers. My favorite, y'all, you guys. I was in the worst reading slump ever. I tried to read probably 15 different books. This was in 2017 or eight. I don't know. It was around that time. And my friend, the one that I talked about tonight, said, "You have to read this book by Christina Lauren." Now, I used to be huge into Twilight too. I used to read Twilight fan fiction. So I kind of knew about that world. And some of my best friends I have now, we all met because for the love of Twilight, and Gina is one of them. And she said, "You have to read this book called Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren." Read it, fell in love with it, and it ignited my love for reading again. And so that book of theirs will always hold a special place in my heart.
oh,
Um, but I love all their books. I will have to say, if you're not familiar with Christina Lauren, there's very different Christina Lauren books. So if you
oh.
read some of the earlier books, like the Beautiful Bastard series, they are very spicy, very spicy. So just be warned, they're not all
So,
contemporary romance. Some of them dabble on this side of erotica. And if you're not ready for it, it'll hit you
oh,
in the face like, woo,
well, that's a
okay.
good point. Now, just out of curiosity, you said they're pretty spicy. How would you categorize the spice level of, say, the Soulmate Equation?
That's soulmate equation is mild.
It's mild. Okay, just
Mild
check.
compared to the other. I mean, not all of their books, but the Beautiful Bastard series, that was the one that came out that was based on their fan fiction. And sometimes fan fiction can get spicy, not all of it is. But I mean, E.L. James came out with 50 Shades of Grey, and that was very spicy. And that was a fan fiction of Twilight, originally called Master of the Universe.
Oh,
So just, if you're reading your Christina Lauren books, read the back. Make sure you know what you're buying. And there are YA books, they have so many. But how did they pump out 27 books in 10 years? Like
see,
they just met in 2009.
I
And
don't get that at all. I mean, I know there's two of them, but it seems like that would make it more difficult and not less difficult.
I
So
wish
much
I could have
collaboration.
I wish I could have asked, is it because like initially they were coming out faster because maybe they were on that fan fiction pace? Like people who write fan fiction typically write it quickly, but with two of them and their book coming out in May is their 28 something, what is their 28th book? That's
That's
just
just hard
blows
to
my
believe.
mind. So their book Something Wilder comes out May 17th. So
Yes, and it's, even though it's on their website now, I mean, the image of the book is on their website now along with the date. It just doesn't have a separate, dedicated area. So looking forward to that, because it sounds even better now than before we talked to them.
Edie says, okay, spicy. Oh, which ones are spicy? Okay. Oh dear. I just know I haven't read, honestly, I haven't read all the spicy ones. I started with Love in Other Words, and I mean, it's love, and there might be a little spice, but it's not. Any of the Beautiful Bastard are the ones that are spicy. And
Are they looking for more spice or less spice?
I don't know.
Oh,
Yes, if you're in a reading slump, try Love in Other Words, Mrs. M.
This is
Yeah. You can get whatever you want with Christina Lauren. That's why I love them. They're great. What are
that
you?
just makes it so interesting.
Yes. What are you reading now that you finished The Wedding Veil?
That's a good question because I really didn't want The Wedding Veil to end, and I saved it. I saved the end of it for after the Beaufort Pat Conroy literary tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I saved the Soulmate Equation a little while too. So I'm not sure what to pick up next.
I feel like I can read
about
one
you?
more book before I start The Wedding Veil. So I was at a convention this weekend and I met this fantasy. I haven't read a fantasy book in forever, and I don't even have it with me. But the cover's really cool. Like maybe I'll read something totally different, or I might read this mystery book that I also don't know the name of. So that's not very good.
That's pretty funny.
I'm 0 for 2. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm listening to a book right now that's really funny. Talia Hilbert, I think is the name of the author. And it's called, what is it called? Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hilbert.
Ooh.
It's kind of funny. Yeah, I've been listening to that. It's been cracking me up. I like it because the lead female is a little curvier.
Mhm.
I appreciate when they have plus size women leading the book.
Mhm.
So
It's
okay.
funny. I was looking over. That's why I'm looking away. I'm not looking away, but I'm looking.
I'm like, I'm boring her, y'all.
No, I'm looking at my shelves because I have all these books that are in my TBR pile, but I don't know if anybody else is like this, but I can't always just pick up the next one. Like I have to be in the right,
I get that.
frame of mind for it. And so sometimes it's hard to just say, especially when you finish like a couple of really good ones, like the Soulmate Equation and the Wedding Veil. It's kind of like, oh, what next?
Diane would like to know how many books we each read a week.
Oh, not. I don't probably even read one a week. I'm trying to think.
In my good reading days, I was about one a week. As of late, it has been a struggle for me to physically read. I've been doing more audio, and I do read sometimes at night, but I suffer from insomnia and I've just been having the hardest time focusing when I'm reading. So lately it's been about 2 books a month, which is very low for me, but I'm hoping to pick that pace back up because I have a lot of books I want to read.
Well, and I know people who read more than that, but I really have trouble doing more than about 3 per month. Although I'm fairly new to the audiobook thing, I did the audiobook of People We Meet on Vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And it really was like a new experience for me because I just enjoyed the narrator so much. So that might have kind of changed my mind about audiobooks. So we'll see.
Well, before we say goodbye, we have a special guest in the chat, Ron Block.
We
And
do. Hey, Ron.
Rumor has it that Christy and the Wedding Veil will be on the Friends in Fiction Writers Block podcast this week with exclusive content. So you guys definitely want to tune into that.
Well, I think that might be a little more than a rumor in that case.
Yes.
So that's something to look forward to, Ron. Thanks for that.
Thanks for the tip. And thanks to everyone for joining us tonight with Christina Lauren, which was so fun.
Oh, it
We hope you
was.
enjoyed it. And we will see you soon and next month with Christy Woodson Harvey and the Wedding Veil.
Yay, can't wait.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. Happy reading.
Good night.
Night.